I think my dad is engaged in an inappropriate relationship with my neighbor's daughter after divorcing my mom, and I feel incredibly sick about the situation because she is younger than me, but my dad says legal is legal. Posted by u/comfortableab501. New and first Reddit account, as this had been on my mind for a bit and I really need advice. I, 21F, lived a good life growing up. My parents were college sweethearts who got together during their sophomore year of university, married at 23, and had me at 25. My dad was a financial analyst who worked 50 hours, and my mom was a nurse who worked 36 hours, as she worked multiple 12-hour shifts a week. My parents brought in a little over $100K annually, and I even went to a great school growing up. All in all, I had an average suburban family life. When I was 18, I moved to DC for college, and that was when my parents' marriage went downhill. By the time I came home for spring break, they announced to me that they'd be getting a divorce. There was no bad blood between them, and they just simply weren't compatible anymore and both wanted different things. It deeply impacted me, but they stayed the same. It felt like the same parents I had grown up with, they just weren't legally married anymore. A few weeks ago, my dad broke his leg and has had trouble getting up and down the steps of his house or pretty much doing anything. I went over to check on him just to see how he was doing and progressing. He still lives in my childhood home after the divorce, as my mom wanted something a bit closer to the beach. A lot of my neighbors that I grew up around still live in the same houses. When I used my spare key to get in, I saw our neighbor, let's call her Kira, in the kitchen making him soup. The neighborhood has always been kind of close-knit, so while it wasn't too surprising that our neighbors were helping another neighbor in need, it did rub me the wrong way. Kira had just turned 18 in mid-June, and her parents, who were closer to my dad than she was, were nowhere to be found. Their cars weren't even in their driveway. I asked Kira what was happening, and she said that she just wanted to help out a bit. I didn't think much of it and went up to my dad's room, where he seemed fine, but he didn't even look up and he was completely shirtless. I asked him why that was, and he said that it was comfortable. But before I left for college, he never thought it was acceptable for any adult man to be shirtless around me, no matter what, so I wondered why he was so comfortable being shirtless around someone else's barely legal daughter. When I left, I called my mom and told her about it. She told me that another neighbor had called her a few days ago and told her about Kira and Dad's relationship. Turns out she had been going over there twice a week since the week after her 18th birthday, and since my dad broke his leg, she's been over there every day from the moment her dad leaves for work to 10 minutes before he comes home. I called my dad the day after and asked him about his relationship with her and the concerns that the neighbors had. He reluctantly admitted that he and Kira had something going on, but it was nothing serious and he was just having fun. I reminded him that she's literally younger than I am and just graduated high school in May. He said that while he knew it was problematic, it was legal and they were both consenting adults. I hung up on him, but when I called him back I said that I will no longer come over to his place because I cannot fathom the idea of him being intimate with a little girl that he had watched grow up and play games with me. He said that I was being dramatic and that I should get the little girl version of her out of my head, as he had. My boyfriend agrees that it's kind of weird, but I do know that maybe I was a tiny bit dramatic, but I don't know. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Your dad is 46, if my math is correct, and sleeping with an 18-year-old. Legal or not, yuck. I'm 42, and the mere thought of that is disgusting to me. Ops response. He turned 46 this past April. I really can't fathom how a man who was married to a woman his age for so many years could wake up and be attracted to a girl younger than his own child, but here we are. Commenter 2. It just amazes me that you, as an adult man or woman, can watch their kids' childhood friends grow up, only to start dating them after they turn legal age. It's just disgusting, and I would wonder when it really started. Is she the reason why they divorced? Ops response. We moved into her neighborhood when I was 5. She was 2 when my dad first met her, and he attended all of her parties, including her high school graduation party. It makes me sick that he was more than likely already having explicit thoughts about her as he watched her and her other high school-aged friends have fun. Commenter 3. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter who's basically my world. I would scorch the earth if a man her father's age came near her. Please tell her parents. Ops response. Her dad is the same way. He's this mean guy who made all the kids too scared to even ring his doorbell. I know that if I spoke up, then my dad would have bigger problems than his broken leg. But I will tell him sooner rather than later. I'm still processing it myself and figuring out how I'm gonna tell him. Commenter 4. Your dad is a grown man who can handle the consequences of his actions. I have to ask, though, why didn't your mom say something? Ops response. I actually never asked, and now that you mention it, she probably should have, since she's always been quite kind to Kira and her family. She expressed that she was disgusted with him when she was telling me what she knew, but I actually have no idea. Commenter 4. It might be worth a chat with her. It really would be more appropriate for her to reach out to them. Update 3 days later. It's been like 2 days since my first post, and so many people asked for an update. I definitely feel better when I get people's advice, but even before I made the post, it had been maybe a week since the incident, so I've had time to process everything since my post. Anyway, I have had very limited contact with my dad since the situation. I started my fall classes on the 27th, and before what happened, I spoke to him every day and told him about my classes. I've stopped, and now I only respond with very small sentences if he texts me first because of how disgusted I am with him. I'm highly considering going no contact. Yesterday morning, I convinced my mom to reach out to her mom over Facebook, as she's obviously closer to her than I am, which she did. To paraphrase the message, she told her about the relationship and that the entire neighborhood knew about it. She also explained how she's concerned about the power dynamic, as the timeline doesn't make sense. It's hard to go from cordial neighbors to having bedroom intimacy all within just a week. Her mom responded saying that she'd be disgusted if she found out what my mom was saying was the truth, and that she and her husband, Kira's father, would look into it. This morning, my mom spoke to the woman who originally told her about the relationship. Apparently, there has been no peace in the neighborhood this morning, and everyone's talking about it. Kira's dad and my dad had a very heated argument that ended with my dad storming away in his car. Kira hasn't been seen since yesterday afternoon, not even this morning, and her car has been parked in the same spot all day. My mom texted Kira's mom to ask about what happened after she got the news. Kira's mom told her that she went through her phone when she fell asleep on the couch last night. Everyone knows that Kira's password is her birthday, and she found messages that had subtle hints of flirting while she was still 16 or 17. There wasn't enough to go to the police and say that they had a physical relationship before her 18th birthday, but 2 days after her party, my dad started sending her messages talking about how beautiful she looked. Kira thanked him and sent a few flirty messages of her own. The messages turned explicit very fast, and they went from texting about movies or Kira asking for advice on her car, before her birthday, to him asking her to do things to him and her happily accepting. According to the neighbor, Kira's dad went over to my dad's place at around 6 a.m. and beat on his door until he answered. A lot of the people on that street have jobs or kids who have school, and it woke them all up. They argued, Kira's dad shoved him, and the HOA man came over and broke it up, which is why my dad left. When I was getting ready for class at around 12 today, he texted me saying that I didn't have to get Kira's parents involved, as she was an adult, and that we could have talked it out as adults. I told him that he was still my dad and I love him as the man that raised me, but I'm going to love him from a major distance because I can't get it out of my head that he more than likely groomed this girl. He said that I took their entire relationship out of context and that Kira was a willing participant. I told him that if I were in her spot and he were her dad, then he'd be pissed. He completely ignored that message and started a new conversation about how legal was legal, and despite her parents interfering, Kira wasn't going to stop loving him, and he wasn't going to stop what he was doing just because the parents of an adult got involved. Not the exact words, but it gets the point across. I told my mom about the conversation, and she said that she's sick thinking about the times Kira came over when we were a bit younger, maybe 16 and 13, and how he might have already been having ideas about her, and how good she'd look when she turned 18. I don't know when I'll stop looking at my dad as a predator. I know how much I love the comfortable father-slash-daughter relationship we had, but I won't allow him to normalize what he's doing, and I can't bring myself to even ask him what he's going to eat for dinner. Once again, thanks for the advice, guys. As her parents are just finding out, I'll probably have more updates depending on what happens. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Your dad is gross, and she was very much being groomed, which is so sad. I also feel sorry for her parents, as clearly this was someone they had trusted around their daughter her whole life, only for him to end up being a predator. Honestly, I would cut your losses. As much as you say you love your dad, is that love strong enough to ignore the glaring red flags? Ops response. You're completely right. I don't think my love for him is enough to look past what he's done. I don't even think them breaking up could fix it, as it still happened, and he's still a weirdo. Commenter 2. He's so fixated on it being legal because, deep down, he knows how disgusting he is. This must be so hard to process. Ops response. Really hard, actually, mainly because I can't believe that the man who protected me against dangerous men in the world was just like the men he told me to avoid. I haven't spoken to him over a phone call since and refused to text him first, so I believe that I'm making bits and pieces of progress. Commenter 3. Your dad won't be living in that house much longer. The neighborhood is going to make it very uncomfortable for him. Ops response. A lot of the neighbors have kids that live with them, and the ones that don't are in their 40s or older, so their kids are out the door. I do believe that you're right, and nobody's going to want to live by him anymore. Commenter 4. He stormed off? So his leg has healed enough? Is it safe for him to drive? Not saying that the safety of a predator is my biggest concern when it comes to this story, but most of my other questions already had an answer. Ops response. I think I already knew this was coming but didn't bother editing it. Like I mentioned at the top, it had already been a week since the incident before my post, and I didn't post it until later. His leg had been broken for a week before I visited, and I took that to mean he's in a brace right now, so it's pretty safe for him to do some things like drive, just not a lot, according to our conversation as of 2 days ago. Additional info from Op. Smaller update that I didn't think was worth making a post about, but a neighbor posted in the neighborhood Facebook group, that my mom is still a part of, about my father and warned everyone to ask their daughters about him and avoid him at all costs. The post got so many nasty comments that it was locked and taken down, and the HOA man's wife, who runs the group, put out an official statement saying that the group shouldn't talk about it because it brings too much negativity. A few neighbors commented on that post saying they didn't believe it, as my dad had a daughter of his own and wasn't that type of guy, but it was swiftly removed, not before people accused them of being enablers and hidden child predators. The warning post was made last night and was gone by the morning. The statement was released in the morning, just so everyone has a clear timeline.